Having the proper understanding of data is actually an edge, whether it be used for business, for advancing your career, or for managing a business or leading a certain department in a certain company. And why do I say that? It's because data gives you the proper direction on how to guide your business or your organization to a certain point in the future. And I believe that everybody does not want to stay stagnant or lost in his or her chosen endeavor, or with respect to a certain company. It has something to do with losing their investments, because we all would like to grow and every business would like to gain. And that is why your proper understanding of data is really very helpful. If you would like to steer your company to higher returns of your investments, or if you are a professional, you would like to advance your career, or you are employed in a certain company as a data scientist. And by the name itself, it's actually very challenging, not to mention the fact that it's more prestigious. So with this, having the knowledge on how to deal with data is an advantage for a certain business or for a certain individual. But the question is this: how are we going to be an expert in the field even if we don't have any technical background about data? So when we say technical background, it has something to do with mathematics, it has something to do with programming, or even it has something to do with a certain domain. And this is what we're going to talk about today. How can we transition from being non-technical to someone who is an expert in data science, thinking the fact that there are so many things that we have to take note of, because data science involves not just only one skill, but it's a combination of a lot of skills. So if you are from a non-technical background, it's a bit challenging. It's because you have to really study a lot of things. But despite it being challenging and hard, the result can be so overwhelming and very rewarding. It's because it's not just easy to shift from one field which is really very far from data science to, of course, data science. And so there are actually 4 things that we're going to take note of if we would like to become a data scientist, and we're going to have them one by one. The first thing that we're going to take note of is mathematics. Mathematics is the foundation of data science, because when we deal with different data science problems, then it is actually all about numbers. And when we say numbers, it has something to do with statistics, it has something to do with probability, it may have something to do with calculus, your linear algebra, and any mathematics that is connected to data science. So basically, these are just some of the field in mathematics that we have to take note of that are very much connected to the data science, because they serve the foundation of not just data analytics, but also machine learning, deep learning, and artificial intelligence. So if you don't have any background, any technical background of data science, you first have to learn from its foundation. And the foundation is mathematics. As what I've said, these are statistics, probabilities, calculus, linear algebra, analytic geometry, just to name a few. And why do we have to know them? This is the most basic question that you have to ask yourself if you would like to ask, why do we have to learn mathematics? I'll give you an example. You would like to predict a certain sales performance for a certain year. Do you think you can do so? You can give the proper model for prediction if you don't understand the mathematical model behind it? I believe you cannot. Just even for the simple linear regression, if you don't know the parameters and how to choose the parameters, how to adjust the parameters, then it would be very much difficult for you to make a linear model. And the best way to study mathematics for data science is to start from the very basic. And why do we have to start from the very basic? Because the very basic things would give you the proper intuition, the proper understanding for you to reach to the more difficult ones. So for example, if you don't know derivatives, if you don't know integral calculus, or even differentiation, then I believe it would be harder for you to understand Hessian matrix. It is challenging for you to do Jacobian matrix and to do all the computations, and that is how to make adjustments of a different learning rate. It would be very difficult for you to do that. These things are very much important, especially if you are building a model, because we would like to understand and identify the losses and even the cost function. And also dealing with different algorithms of data science, these are basically mathematics, and having the proper understanding, even the basic ones of these different algorithms, then it would be very easy for you as you go along with the process to fill in the different details. So that is why you have to start from the very basic. And as you go along with your study, just fill in the gaps, fill in the different details of the different algorithms. Let's go back to our example just a while ago, which is about sales performance, and you are asked to make a linear model of a certain prediction for a certain sales of a certain year. Then you're going to make a linear model of the situation. So basically what you will do is that you're going to identify the different variables, and based on the different variables, you're going to again identify which of these can really give you the best description of the situation. Is it the year versus products, or year versus the promotion or advertising? Which one is which? Because when we say linear modeling, it has something to do with not just picking any variable that you would like to include, but it's about having the proper understanding of how to identify which kind of variable we're going to use to arrive at a better model. So basically for linear modeling, what you will do first is to identify the kind of variable you're going to use for modeling. And as you go along with the process of linear modeling, then you would be able to clearly identify how to make adjustments. And why do we have to make adjustments? It's because the behavior of people changes. The trends of the buying habit of people or customers change. So this is why you have to make some changes as you go along with the process. And making changes, making some adjustments, requires you to have a better mathematical understanding of the algorithms. And as you go along with your experience, there are a lot of things that you're going to consider to build a better model. Granting that you already have substantial understanding of modeling or algorithms, then what would be the next thing that you are going to learn? And so the number two thing that you're going to learn is programming. We all know that programming is really a must skill if you would like to be a data scientist. And when we say programming, it could be with the use of different languages. So in data science, we have two languages that are very much famous. So we have Python and R. So whichever language you think you're comfortable in using, then you can do so. And if you would like to use both languages in your data science projects, then that is also possible. But if you are a beginner, just choose which one of these two languages you're going to master. Or if not of these two, then also I suggest you start from the very much basic, and you have to master before you go into another language. So this kind of approach would help you so that you will not be confused of the structure of one language and the structure of the other language. And maybe you would like to ask me, why is it that we have to learn first the mathematics before the programming? It's because when you have the proper mathematical background of the different algorithms, then it is easier for you to understand how to make code, how to write code, or different programs. Let's remember this, that mathematics is also the foundation of the programming in data science, because it would be very difficult for you to deal with coding to solve a data science case if you don't understand how to solve the problem using the mathematics. But one thing that you have to understand too is that Excel is still very much powerful. Of course, if you know Excel better, and if you're dealing with just not huge amount of data, Excel is still better to use on how to deal with your data science project. That is, if you are confident with Excel. And why do I say this? Remember this, that data science is not just about programming, but it's about solving problem. So when you can solve your problem using Excel, then it's still very important, or it's still acceptable. Because at the end of the day, it's not what kind of tool or what kind of programming language you use, but it has something to do with how you solve the problem. So we already have mathematics, we already have programming, and what could be the next thing that we're going to learn? The next thing that we're going to learn is the domain knowledge. So when we say domain knowledge, it has something to do with the different fields where we would like to be an expert in. It could be in education, it could be in engineering, it could be in environment, it could be in computer science, it could be in research for social good. Like, for example, if you would like to solve the flood issues in your country or in your place, then data science is really very helpful. If you are in business, for example, you can also use data science to solve your business problems. So having the proper understanding of your case, of your field, for example, is very important if we are dealing with a certain data science project. And why is that? Because it's your guide to do your way and to deal with different questions as you go along with the process of your project. Domain knowledge is very significant, especially when you are having a discussion as to what kind of model you're going to use to solve a certain problem. In some cases, it may not be all about mathematics and programming, but it has something to do with experience. And your experience gives you the proper understanding of your domain. So this is why having a domain knowledge is very important in choosing what kind of model to use. Because sometimes in choosing the right model, what is acceptable is not based on the result of our assessment as data scientists, based on the numbers that come out, but it's based on our intuition as a person who is expert in the field. It has something to do with our experience. It has something to do with our emotion. So we have mathematics, we have programming, we have domain knowledge. And the fourth thing that we need to do is that we are going to do a lot of practice. Nothing beats practice, and you have to be very much careful because it is not just a simple practice, but it has something to do with an evaluated practice, an evaluated experience. So every time you have your practice, then you have to evaluate, and you have to ask yourself, have I done good? What are these things that I have missed? What are these things that I have to develop? Or what are these things that I have learned but are not yet applicable for a certain project? So in this part of your journey, you will be able to understand how to combine the different skills, the different sets of your understanding coming from different knowledge or skills that you have learned. So you have to combine them to come up with a certain project. And also, doing your practice here, you will be able to understand how things really work for the better. So we've mentioned the different details that you have to fill in as you go along with the process of your study. And this is the best time that you're going to fill in the missing ideas or knowledge or even applications. And maybe somehow along the process of practice, you will be able to meet a lot of questions that point you to go back to the mathematics or even the programming. And sometimes these questions would give us an idea what kind of mathematics we have to focus on. Because for a lot of mathematics and the programming coding that we've learned, most of them may not be applicable for a certain project. So they are just a certain segment of our mathematical knowledge, of our analytical understanding that we're going to use for a specific project. And once you're done with your project, you have to review, you have to study, you have to learn more. So when these four things are done, are you going to stop? Of course not. There are still a lot of things that you have to study, that you have to learn about data science, which may not have been studied by you as you go along with the process. So you should never stop.